grab that remote control because the GCRN's brand new TV podcast is here. We are calling it Remote Control. I am your host, TFG and Mike, and joining me this time for our second encounter here with this 2012 series is Doug Abel from Talking About My Generation. Hello, sir.
Hello, sir.
We are back this week. As I said, this is going to be a 3-week thing here in February. We're back this week with Dallas, the 2012 series, the continuing sequel series. Season 2 this time around. To set the stage here, obviously it ran from 2012 to 2014 on TNT. 1 hour show length, 3 seasons, 40 episodes. Oh boy, Season 2.
Yeah.
So last week when we talked about Season 1, I had mentioned when we were talking about Bobby having cancer that it was kind of weird that they started out with that, especially with what happened in the future of the show.
Oh, yeah.
And after the 7th episode of Season 2. Because, and I don't think they planned this. I honestly don't. And I'm sure all of the staff and all the writers and executives at TNT knew, possibly. I'm sure at least Patrick Duffy and Linda Gray and his closest friends knew that Larry Hagman was sick. But the fact that he died of cancer in real life...
Oh, yeah. I mean, that was not something you wanted to hear happen.
No, it wasn't something you wanted to hear happen, but it just, like, for me, because, as we said last week, Larry Hagman lived and breathed the essence of J.R. Ewing. And we said it last week, not just in the original show and not just in this new series. I mean, anytime you saw him on the street, I'm sure, in Dallas or wherever he was living at the time, L.A., wherever, I'm sure people would walk down the street, hey, JR, because he wore that hat everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm sure if they let him get away with it, I'm sure he also was wearing the belt buckle.
Oh, God.
If they let him keep... Oh, come on now.
No, I mean, I can see that as you say that. Like, yeah, oh, God,
Yeah.
yes, you're right.
And when I found out the real-life information of Larry Hagman's passing, it just made Season 1 even more emotional with Bobby getting cancer in Season 1. You know what I mean? And it just, it was is pretty much a swift kick in the nuts as far as watching television and knowing these characters. So Season 2... basically, it starts off where Season 1 left off, but we also have the beginnings of JR's master plan.
Yes, and that threw me for a loop. I started seeing it, I'm like, oh, shit, he planned this all out. I mean, down to a T.
Yep. Jumping on the casting couch here, we're not going to talk about the main cast too much. We can talk a bit about the characters if we want, but I mean, it's pretty much the same people for the most part. Yeah. Like we mentioned last time, Judith Light is in here as Judith Ryland, which is Harris Ryland's mother. What did you... let's get Judith out of the way first. What did you think of nice little Angela from Who's the Boss playing this character?
What the fuck? That's the best way I can put it.
There's an episode, I think it's Season 2, where we find out that she is a madam of a whorehouse. And she also is getting into Ryland's drug transportation business. And they meet with the drug dealers, and she takes a big old whiff, and all she says is "mama like." I was like, oh my God. Judith Ryland, as a character played by Judith Light, is probably... She really was their answer, but not a... Answer to, but not a replacement for JR. Like, yeah. I would have... If Larry hadn't passed away, oh my God, can you imagine the storylines they could have created with JR and Judith Ryland?
Oh, I could
Holy
see.
crap.
I mean, it would no longer be Barnes and JR battling back and forth. It would be
Nope.
Judith and JR battling back and forth.
But yeah, I mean, and as you said last time, she comes from Who's the Boss? Judge Elizabeth Donnelly from the Law and Order series, several different incarnations of the Law and Order series, and when I saw Judith Light on Law and Order, see, I know she was on SVU. I'm sure she's on a couple of the other versions of it as well, depending on the guest starring roles. But I liked her as Judge Elizabeth Donnelly. I still like her here as this character, but this is something so completely different. But she was always one of those actresses like, where have I seen her before? I've heard that voice, but and it's like usually when I think of Who's the Boss, sadly, I don't really think about Angela. I think about Tony, and I think about Sam, his daughter.
Yeah.
I mean, those are the first two characters that come to mind. The Angela, Jonathan's. I think the kid's name was Jonathan.
Yeah.
I'm not looking at anything, but
Danny Pintaro. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So, but seeing her here and all the stuff she did, oh man, and the voice that she put on that character, oh. God, it's mind-blowingly awesome, people, because that character has to be what, in her 60s, 70s, the character, not Judith Light herself.
Yeah.
Judith Ryland has to be 60s, 70s, maybe 80s. I don't know. I could be wrong. Obviously, I could be wrong about that, but I mean, this is a 67-year-old woman who looks amazing, and just half the stuff she does is like, holy crap, I can't believe they just got away with that on cable television.
Yeah. But there's a reason that this was cable TV, obviously, because they had there was a lot more stuff that was going on. You didn't see any nudity necessarily, but it was borderline. Let's call it what it was. It's not, it wasn't Breaking Bad where you had a lot of swearing going on or anything like that, but damn, with what was going on. Everybody sleeping around with everybody else, it seemed like.
So crazy.
Oh, yeah.
So crazy. So this second season, begins with Rebecca Barnes, or Pamela Rebecca Barnes. Basically where season 1 left off, where,
Yeah, that was not something I saw coming. I mean, when she stands there at the very end of the episode and it's like, maybe I should call myself by my first name, Pamela. And I was like, what?
And the one thing this show does so well is it mimics and continues. Like, okay, I know everyone was so scattered and so scared. Oh, they're just going to repeat Who Shot JR, or they're just going to repeat Bobby in the shower. And they kind of did, but not. They did it in a way where it was done well and it was updated for today's audience and today's actors playing these different characters now.
Yeah.
It was just one of those things, and everybody, they've done this 3 times. They did it in, what was it, 1980? Was the original Who Shot JR?
Yeah. Yeah. Season.
I think it was 1980. They did it in 91, and now they're doing it in 2013. So they've gotten 3 decades out of the Who Shot JR storyline.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just amazing. And every time it mattered. It didn't matter so much as to who actually shot him, like the reveal of the aftermath, until this series. Like this, because obviously, with Larry's passing. But I mean, this wasn't anything here in the 2012 series that was like, oh, JR's going to be dead for a couple of months, or he's going to be dead for a season, and then he's going to come back. And sadly, that couldn't be the case. But they really pulled all the emotional heartstrings on this final storyline for Who Shot JR.
Well, I mean, just the lead up and the very end when you finally find out, and it's not until that season finale that you find out who actually shot him.
Mm-hmm.
And when I found that out, I was like, I don't know that I should necessarily say who did it.
No, we'll save that for next week when
Yeah.
we talk about season 3.
Yeah, because I mean, to see that and see that bombshell being dropped, it was like, oh shit.
It was Kristen.
Yeah. It was Judith Light.
But and the way they did this series when it was airing is they basically tore us apart here. I mean, they really did, because I'm trying to see, where was the break? Oh dang, there was no reel. I'm trying to see, where is. They didn't do a. See, I thought they did a break in between, like for a month or so. Like sometimes TNT will break up a season.
Yeah.
Like do a fall portion of the season in the spring. They didn't do that with this one. See, I always thought that they did, because when we get to this episode 7, The Furious and the Fast, this one is basically, and I'm just going to read this from Wikipedia, people. Sorry. JR is in Abu Dhabi securing oil leases. Bobby decides to fight Sue Ellen and John Ross to regain control of Ewing Energies with the help of his brother Gary. Ryland and his mother try to force Emma's hand and send her back to England. Elena decides to go into business with Drew. Pamela delays her decision on who she will align herself with until Christopher can test his methane-powered car as he is trying to win a fuel services contract with the city. With the help of former NASCAR driver Ricky Rudd, John Ross's call to JR is interrupted by 2 gunshots on the other end.
Yeah.
I swear, I know they have this listed as March 4th, and then the next episode, JR's Masterpiece, March 11th. But I swear there was a break after The Furious and the Fast, because this episode pretty much ends with silence. It ends with echoes and no music, no nothing. You see JR pull the phone away from his ear as someone in heels or someone in boots walks in. You hear 2 pops. They're not even really gunshots, because I think the gun was muzzled anyway. It had to have been, because they weren't loud bangs. You hear the 2 pops, and John Ross is like, Daddy, JR, and the way the effects and the sound department did this made that episode the most chilling ending of an episode that I have ever seen.
They did such a good job with that. I mean, putting all that together, and you're just sitting here, because I know I was on the edge of my seat. My mom, she watched this. Now, I'll be honest, I didn't see this episode, and part of it was because I knew that it was leading up. He had just died. They were talking about this, and my mom was going, oh my God, J.R. Ewing is dead. And, she's like, Larry Hagman is dead. I Dream of Jeannie is dead. And I'm like, well, yeah, Mom, it's a shame. And she goes, oh, no. I mean, everything they did, I wonder how they're going to finish this off. And this is all that she's saying beforehand. Mm-hmm. And then we hear about this, and I'm like, they're going through with the episode. And I thought that, at that point, Dallas was done for. That we weren't going to hear anything more because JR is gone. And I kept thinking, how are they going to write around this?
They wrote around it all right, and did a damn good job, because that was the thing everybody was worried about. How is the show going to survive without Larry Hagman? And it really does, because you still have Patrick Duffy and Linda Gray, and they bring in all other kinds of old faces.
Oh yeah.
You just look at you look at the episode after The Furious and the Fast. You look at JR's Masterpiece. You got Gary there, the other brother. You got all these other people that JR knew, all of his all of the women in his life that mattered at one point or another.
Yeah.
Sue Ellen starts drinking again because of this, because of JR dying. Um, and in this episode, in the JR's Masterpiece episode, you have the bastard himself show up. It's like, why does everybody look so down? It's a party.
Yeah. Gee, I wonder why.
I know a lot of people usually side with JR and the Ewings and not really with the Barneses, but you got to admit, Ken Kercheval as Cliff Barnes, no one can play that character as well as he can.
Yeah, he was just, I mean, he was an evil son of a bitch.
He really was. So, after season 2, episode 8, JR's Masterpiece, the plot of the season becomes enacting JR's master plan. They get the will read, and all this action happens. You have the explosion on the rig because Drew, Elena's brother, got set up by Ryland to plant the explosives. Ryland is working for Cliff. Cliff doesn't care that his pregnant daughter, is on the rig.
Yeah,
like he hesitates for a half a second, and he says, "Oh no, for whatever."
So what? Yeah.
Just Cliff Barnes.
There were times in the original series, and because I've seen a couple episodes where I thought that I thought JR was kind of slimy, and Cliff Barnes with this he goes over the top. I'm sorry, he's worse than JR ever was at this point in my mind.
Well, here's the difference. You saw throughout all of season 1 and these first 7 episodes of season 2. When it comes down to family, JR will do anything that he possibly can to protect the family. Cliff wants to basically keep the feud going. He wants to get what his. He wants to get back at the Ewings. He clearly doesn't care who he uses in the process to get this done. He wants to win at all costs, and it doesn't matter to him even if he has to use his own daughter.
Yeah, and that just kind of sucked that happened.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So as this season goes on, what were your thoughts of the storyline as it went on?
It just kind of kept taking a lot of twists. I enjoyed a lot of it. The start. Let's start with that. I mean, you see a lot of things going on with Jesus. Why can't I remember his name? The guy who was doing with the methane car.
Christopher.
Thank you. I'm like, God damn it, what's his name? I can see his face. This is horrible. But yeah, I mean, everything going on with Christopher, where he's trying to get that car taken off and launched off, and he's trying to get everybody interested. And my entire thing when I was watching that at the very beginning was, something's going to happen with that car. Something's going to happen with that car. It's going to blow up on the track. Something's going to happen. And I mean, I didn't see anything like that, at least up to the episodes that I saw through it. I have yet to see anything with season 3 other than the very first episode of that. So we'll leave that alone.
Yeah, that's for next week.
I mean, there was a lot of stuff that came through that I kept thinking, oh, this is going to get worse. This is going to get worse. And of course, having the $6 million man show up, aka Lee Majors, that was a nice touch.
Yeah.
The one thing that bothered me as well was when Ryland basically hides the fact that he's got this daughter, and Sue Ellen finally goes out to meet the daughter of Ryland and her.
And then,
the daughter's like, no, fuck you. I don't want to have anything to do with you.
Mm-hmm. Because she's been brainwashed.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah, but I mean, when I first saw that, I was like, what the hell?
Yeah.
So what has she been told? What why? And to find all that out, and then
That's another thing that happens throughout this season is you have the trial of Anne, Bobby's wife Annie, and talking about because at one point she shoots Harris. That's why.
yeah,
Um, she shot Harris. So you have her on trial, and all the stuff comes out about her past. And I remember that episode because that was the episode where Judith Ryland gets up on the stand and basically tells all these lies, and basically the judge kicks her out and disregards everything she and Ryland have to say. It's
yeah.
so awesome, so hilarious. Um, I think this is the season where you also have Christopher looking for his mother again. Weren't they looking for Pam?
Um,
The adoption stuff and all that. He went to
yeah,
Tenzin. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So everybody always says, "Oh, well, Christopher's not a real Ewing. He's this, that, and the other thing, and everything else." And he's adopted and whatever, because that was part of the thing. They had to get the controlling interest for Ewing Energies, so Cliff couldn't steal it through whatever means he was through his daughter and whatever else. So you have Christopher, who is Mr. Adopted. Oh, I want my mommy kind of thing and whatever else. And I like how they played this angle. That you look at this series, Bobby has been married to Annie for God knows how long at this point. At least, 12, maybe 20, I don't know. He's been married to Anne for a while.
right.
And I like that they played it out where Pamela didn't show back up. I know every single Dallas fan out there wanted Victoria Principal to return. But honestly, every interview I've ever seen with her, she doesn't care. She wants to move on with her life. She doesn't want to be stuck in, as a typecasted role in, this show and this franchise. I get that. And I like how they played out that, they kept, JR is trying to find her and everybody's trying to find Pam and whatever else. And we finally get the answers that, she did die. She wanted to come back to Dallas, but she just couldn't. And I mean, I really enjoyed that. I thought that was a good way to play it out without having the need to bring back Victoria Principal. I know everybody in their right mind wanted to see her in that red convertible, but
Yeah,
you gotta let the old storylines go at some point or another, and that was one of them where you just had to let it go. Sure, give Christopher some sort of closure, and then just move on.
well, and I'll tell you, that was something that was on my mind when I was seeing. Uh, was it at the beginning of season 2 or was it at the beginning of season 1 when JR is making backroom deals with Rebecca, and we find out that she's the
Yeah.
one in the car, the red car, and I was kind of like, oh, I wonder if that's an allusion to it. And looking back, now that we know that she is, Pamela Rebecca Barnes, surprise! I kind of like that touch.
Absolutely. Um, and as the season goes on, you have the playing out of JR's master plan. What I love about uh, the um, the JR's master plan, where they have the funeral and all that stuff, is that opens up with them on the helicopter going to Mexico to claim the body.
Yes.
They never actually show who or what kind of prop that the prop department used to have under the gurney, under the black cloth, or in the black bag. I'm very happy that they never actually showed JR's body
Well,
because
yeah, and I mean, I'm kind of glad with that as well. Part of that was because they were scrambling. They were actually scrambling and trying to figure out how they're going to kill him off and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And they actually, what I found out about this was that they had to use footage from a scene that was actually cut where John Ross comes back and tells him that he and was it him and Elena that went, yeah, him and Elena when they went to uh, Switzerland and they got married.
Mm-hmm. No,
Or
not him and Pamela.
Pamela,
Yeah.
excuse me. Well, yeah, well, no, somebody got married. Well, was
Yeah,
didn't,
John Ross and Pamela got married in Vegas so they can take over the shares.
that's right, and she was giving him the shares of
Barnes
Barnes
Global.
Global,
Yep.
right? And then later on, he's screwing around with
With Emma.
yeah. I'm like, God, what's her name? The blonde, the hot blonde with the ass. That's all I can remember of her.
Lucy.
Yes, yes,
Because let's face it, folks. Emma Ryland is basically the 21st century Lucy. She really, really is.
yeah.
Um, because Lucy's character, Lucy, who is with Ray Krebs still, Lucy has always been that mischievous one in the old series. So that's what Emma. But yeah. Um, oh, you think that's bad? You think it's bad that he's messing around with her? Oh, just wait until season 3.
That's what I'm afraid to find
Uh,
out.
all, all I'm gonna say is there's some green lingerie.
Oh,
Oh, you're gonna die. You thought, I'm telling you, man, if they were able to keep this show going after season 3, we would still be talking about this. But as we've talked about it in the past 2 weeks, your expectations or your thoughts on what's going to happen are just considerably going to be shattered with some certain events that do happen. Um, it's just amazing. The show is just amazing. So yeah, we got Jr. and Pamela running off, getting married to have the shares, and we've got what else here? We've got the master plan in play. We've got Christopher still trying to work on his methane thing, as well as find his mother. Um, and we've got Bobby and him trying to hold the entire family together. In the meantime, you have Drew, who has disappeared completely off the face of the earth. And you have Elena dealing with that, and dealing with her mother and everything else. And I was not expecting this season to end the way it did.
no. I mean, there was that was definitely a surprise to me to see some of that came about. Obviously with the funeral in play,
Mm-hmm.
and like I said, finding out who really shot Jr.
Mm-hmm.
and the motives for that person shooting Jr. Um, yeah, let's talk master plan. This is where you really find out how far down the rabbit hole that Jr. went in plotting
Mm-hmm.
everything out to make sure that John Ross, got to sit on top. Yeah, I don't want to say anything more because I don't want to ruin it for anybody who hasn't seen it yet, because this is such a good turning point.
It really is. It really is. And what's so interesting about this is how the characters work around everything and work well with what's written. And Christopher and John Ross, you know, when Bobby was reading, or when the will was read and Bobby was given a letter, and you know that was that was just heartbreaking. When Bobby, before, when he was off by himself reading the letter that JR wrote him,
Oh yeah,
it was, oh my god, I cried. I mean, hell, I'm almost about to cry now just thinking about it, people, and I'm not even watching the show right now. Um, just heartbreaking. And then the two kids, John Ross and Christopher, want him to tell them what the letter said, and
you just kind of it just goes on from here.
yeah, I mean, well, he says that it just, it's not the right time yet. It's, we gotta wait. We gotta, do this right and whatever else. And just absolutely amazing. What I really enjoyed about this season is we're pretty much done. It's there in the background and it's kind of annoying, but we're pretty much done with the whole Vicente thing. The whole character, Carlos Bernard's character from season one, the guy that was wanting to buy South Fork from Jr.
Yeah.
The Venezuelans. We're pretty much done with that. I mean, it's still there in the background a little bit, but the main focus of this season was JR's master plan, Anne's trial, Christopher following his mom around the country, and JR even says several times, I wasn't a fan of the first Pamela Barnes, but as long as you treat my son right, I'm happy. And it's just one of those things where, as I said earlier, he is all about family no matter what, because he was like you said earlier, he was actively looking for the original Pamela to see if he could find her. Obviously, he was out for his own gains, but he was still looking for her.
Yeah.
Season 2 was action-packed. It was emotional. It was explosive. You have close to the end. I'm not going to reveal any real spoilers, but you have Elena going to Mexico for some odd reason.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, and that was a little strange. Because Elena is not a character here. She's a character, but she's not a character in this series that you think that she has. Up until season 2, they really hadn't fleshed her out. She was pretty much kind of arm candy set to the side. She was arm candy when the boys needed her.
Yeah.
But, she had her original deal with Sue Ellen for the Henderson land, but that kind of got pushed to the side, and it got brought back up this season a little bit, but I never saw Elena as really honestly having a life other than being with either John Ross or Christopher, and just kind of, but she really wanted one and wanted to do all this stuff, and she did, but it's not till season 3 where she really becomes a focus of the story, obviously. Because season 2 kind of ends with her going to Mexico. We find out at the end of season 2 who shot JR. We'll talk about that next time. Any other thoughts on season 2, sir?
I think that everything that they did, they put it together well. They gave nice homage to Larry Hagman as he lived and died,
Mm-hmm.
and even afterwards, because I know that they had done a cast get together afterwards,
Mm-hmm.
and TNT had actually aired this the night of the funeral episode, which I believe was the season finale. I could be wrong. I apologize for that.
No, the funeral episode was not the season finale. The season finale is when we found out who shot JR.
Oh, you know what I'm thinking? It's them reading the will. That's it. I'm sorry.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, when they aired the funeral, it was, the cast actually did sit around and talk about Larry Hagman and how he was, in life and in death, and just everything that he went through, and going through and his heavy drinking and getting clean. And they all said that they had their moments with Larry, but damn, they missed him,
Mm-hmm.
And I think about that, and I just was, it's heartbreaking to think about it. The guy, yeah, he did have his problems. He went through 2 livers,
Mm-hmm.
but he finally did get himself clean at the end. He got himself cleaned up, at least off of alcohol, so that he wasn't destroying his liver again.
Mm.
And just, I miss the man. The fact that he's gone, he's not fulfilling his role as J.R. Ewing anymore. I think that's part of why Dallas got the axe in a sense. It's, you take away the patriarch of the family, and just kind of fell. It kind of fell apart. I mean, the writing was still there. They still held it on, but without him.
I mean, season 3 is pretty much without him completely, obviously.
Yeah.
And season 3, they're still working off the master plan, and they're still working towards an ultimate goal. They take a few different twists and turns and different moves that we might not have expected if JR had still been alive, but it really works. Because they kind of... I wish we had like a TV movie or even a live action film with this cast to really put a period on the series, because how season 3 ends and it didn't get picked up is just, oh my god, how I don't want to sound like Sheldon Cooper, but how dare they end it on a cliffhanger?
Oh God!
I'm not going to spoil it for you because you really need to watch it, but it ends on one of, and I don't mean, I'm going to say worst here, but I don't mean worst as in bad, but it ends on one of the worst cliffhangers you could ever want in a television series like this. All right, folks. What's 0 to 5 stars? What are you going to give Dallas season 2, sir?
I'm probably going to give it a 4.5. Mainly just because there were some things that seemed kind of drawn out.
Mm-hmm.
There are other things that I still, after watching it and finding out some of the things, some of the spoilers that we're not revealing, just kind of like, it's a kick in the gut.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's about really all I can say for it, for what I thought of it.
I'm going to give it a 4.5 as well. I really loved all of the JR Master Plan stuff. After a while, I got tired of Christopher's whiny ass about finding his mother, and just some of the... Don't get me wrong, I like Jesse Metcalfe as an actor. He's an awesome actor, but just the way that the Christopher Ewing character is, he just comes off as a whiny little bitch sometimes. And I think that was dragged out a little bit too much about finding the original Pamela Barnes.
Yeah,
I love how shocking it was when JR and our current Julie Gonzalo's character Pamela Barnes. I love it when they went and got married. I thought that was a unique and interesting twist. Because if you think about it, in the original series, it was Bobby who married Pam, and it was JR who was married to Sue Ellen. In this series, you have Christopher, who had an off-again, on-again relationship with Elena, and you have John Ross marrying the Pamela Barnes of the series.
Yeah.
So it's a whole, reverse psychology kind of thing. There were some things in here, some of the acting, a little bit of the acting, a little bit of the storyline writing stuff that I didn't particularly care for, but overall, the season was amazing, so 4.5 for me as well. We are going to take a quick break, come back, and let you know what's coming up. We'll be back after this.
Hey Geekcast listeners, do you ever listen to Punisher Body Count and think to yourself, this show would be awesome if it had less toilet humor and was not about the Punisher? If so, join me, Emily Williams, as I class up the Punisher guys on Dane and Jake Get Classy, or like the Oprah Book Club of comics. You'll hear us discuss famous works like The Dark Knight Returns and The Crow, along with graphic novels no one else is talking about, like Blue Monday and Blankets. You can find us at daneandjakegetclassy.wordpress.com or on iTunes.
Do you like retro shows? Did you grow up in either the 80s or the 90s? Then tune into Telecast, GeekCastRadio.com's newest podcast. Join us here on the Telecast as we revisit some of your favorite shows, such as Clarissa Explains It All, Salute Your Shorts, Saved by the Bell, and much, much more, only on GeekCastRadio.com.
Alright, folks, it is time to exit stage left. Alright, give me a couple of non-spoilery predictions of what you're hoping to happen in Season 3.
I'm kind of hoping to see how things are going to play out with Cliff Barnes. Obviously, I know that he's still on the back burner. He's he's been accused of certain things, and
Mm-hmm.
that was kind of a blow, the season finale, as to, weapons being distributed, I should say. Well,
Yeah.
that's the best way to put it.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of wondering what'll happen there. I'm kind of wondering what happened, who Elena was actually seeing down in Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen the very first episode of season 3, so I know who it is. We do find that out there, so that's not. But I mean, it's going to be one of those things that I'm wanting to know who it is, how that's going to play into everything. And I kind of want to know how the season is going to play out. Really, I mean, how it's going to end, simply because TNT screws everything over and says no, we're not going to have a fourth season. And I'm wondering how things are going to go with JR not being around anymore. So, I guess that's the best I can say for it.
I'll say this. Bobby steps up a lot. Like, Bobby's whole character has pretty much shifted, where he has to be both of them. He can't just be the classic Bobby Ewing we know, the good guy. He is still that. He is still Bobby Ewing, the good guy. But with his brother's death, he has learned a lot. And he has learned how to become a little bit more sneaky. He has, in season 3, they really did give him a lot of the JR traits. Not all of them. They don't allow Bobby to cross the lines that JR would normally cross, but Bobby does stuff in season 3 that he would never normally do if JR had still been alive. When it comes to who Elena is seeing in Mexico, we do, as you said, we do find that out in the season 3 opener. What you don't see in the season 3 opener is how that unfolds later, and certain things that this person will do specifically to Elena.
Ugh.
And this ties into the whole series finale cliffhanger, because it's basically poking holes through the D. That's all I can say about it, because once you see it, your jaw's going to hit the floor. Your jaw's going to, it's a good thing you don't live in a high-rise, because if you lived on the 25th floor of a high-rise, your jaw would go from floor 25 to the basement when you see what happens with the person that Elena goes to see and how all that happens later. All right, what have we got coming up over on Talking About My Generation this week, sir?
For this week, let's see, we just aired 7D. We're working on Failed Franchises February, where we're kind of talking about just things that probably should never have been made. The Punky Brewster cartoon, for example. We'll be covering GoBots, the sequels for Revenge of the Nerds coming up. We got a lot of stuff coming up here for it, and I'm looking forward to it. So if you guys want to check it out, go take a look over at mygenerationpodcast.com. Check us out. Tell us what you think.
Awesome. Thank you for joining us here on Remote Control. There are several ways to get in contact with us, so leave feedback for the show. Visit the website, geekcastradio.com, where you can comment on this and all of our other episode posts. Email us, feedback@geekcastradio.com. Leave the show's feedback in iTunes, please do this. We actually do have one review. It is from our buddy Movie Revolt Dan, who is from our other show, Talking in Circles on the Geekcast Radio Network. He says, "Listen to this now." 5-star review left on January 23rd, 2015. Just recently got into this podcast and would recommend it for any TV fans. So thank you so much, Dan, for leaving us that review. Follow us on Twitter, @GeekCastRadio is the show Twitter. Mine is TFJ and Mike. What is your Twitter?
@Sprzout, SPRZOUT.
Become a fan on Facebook. Go to facebook.com/GeekCastRadio Network. You can also check out Talking About My Generation over there. Call the voicemail line. Tell us the show you're leaving the message for and your name. 502-526-5821. There's a 5-minute time limit. We hope you enjoyed the latest episode of Remote Control and wish you'll join us next time when we'll be covering Dallas 2012 Season 3. For now, I am TFG Mike with
Doug Abel.
Tune in next time when we'll all be fighting over the remote control.
You have turned into Remote Control's latest episode. Listen in as the GCRN crew talks TV from 2000 to now, with pilot and season premiere episodes, finishing finales, and season passes as well. Now get ready to change the channel with your remote control as we bring you the latest and greatest in the world of television. All from the Geekcast Radio Network. We are all remote controlled.
Tell me what you know, John Ross.
Christopher won the damn race. And don't bother with a lecture, because there's nothing you could tell me that I haven't already told myself. But there is a play to be made with the woman at the DCT. We can fix this.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. Well, don't you worry, son. I've got a plan. It's gonna be my masterpiece. Because you shouldn't have to pay for my sins.
What do you mean?
Just remember, I'm proud of you. You're my son. From tip to tail.
Thank you, Daddy. That means a whole lot for me to hear you say that. JR? Hello? Dad! Dad! Dad?